All right. I want to bump that theme song here real quick, just so we can all hear it, get in the spirit.
Let me get a bump of that theme.
Oh, you got it.
I love theme.
All right, here it comes.
My body is ready.
Oh, that's so funny.
Take him away, Ty.
Welcome to Thought Cops, the only podcast where every week we police the mean streets of the internet because, hey, somebody's gotta do it, for crying out loud. And then we let you be the judge, the jury, and the executioner in the court of public opinion. Coming to you live from Neo Chicago, I'm Officer Kevin.
And I'm Grant Star. Let's get to the news. Do you guys like my reference?
Christ, that was uncanny. I thought Keemstar had like taken you away, and I got tricked into being in a podcast with him.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh God,
Joke's on you.
That would be the worst nightmare I ever have. Is that someone tricked me into being stuck talking to Keemstar for an hour and a half.
No.
God, sometimes I worry that like this show is like what he does.
Nah.
It is. Oh no, it is. It totally is.
Well, this begins my nightmare. Let's give a quick thank you to our guest from last week, Zach from YOLO Swag Studios. So thank you, Zach. And we got a returning guest to the show. We got the one and only Danny Thompson. Danny Shadowforks Thompson. How are you, Mr. Shadowforks?
I'm doing... That's certainly the question. That's certainly the question days, for the month.
Yeah. So I guess we're all kind of in the same boat. So what I will ask you instead is, what have you been up to?
Oh goodness. A lot of introspection, I guess. Mm-hmm. Like that's like mostly what I've been doing. It's when quarantine started, I was like, oh, I'm going to clean so much, or I'm going to play so many video games. And now it is a lot of me just like hooking despair into my veins, which is Twitter, and just endlessly scrolling through Twitter and endlessly scrolling through Facebook and social media and just losing hours to that unfortunate.
I've been trying to be good about that. Like, it can be a lot. Holy fuck. The last several months, the last several weeks, it's a lot to take in, and sometimes you gotta be responsible about it.
Oh yeah, because the thing for me, like the first step of solving or figuring out a problem or whatever they say about that is identifying it. And so like last week when I was scrolling through Twitter and I realized I had done it for 30 minutes straight and I had like other things I needed to do, I was like, oh no, this is a bad thing, like what I'm doing right now. So I need to like find other things to keep me busy that at least has some like progression towards something meaningful or productive. I don't know. Yeah,
I do find that I'm on there for upwards of an hour at sometimes, and I'm like, this is fucking pointless.
Yep. You know the sick part in my mind though always goes like, well, you're trying to cultivate somewhat of a following so that more people listen to the podcast, right?
Yeah.
You have a justification to waste all this time. Go tweet as much bullshit as you want. Try and get a retweet. Like, it's a big waste of time, but at the same time, I can justify the waste of time, which is sad to me.
Yeah, for me, so like going back and trying to be more specific on like what I've been up to since because I don't think we have talked since last July in terms.
Yeah.
So like a
was
lot.
The last time you were on.
A lot has happened since then in terms of my personal life. I've like changed careers. Like I think when I talked to you all last time, I think at that point I had just started a job at like a big printing company that I'm not going to name. Even though I'm pretty sure I named it that previous episode. But there's
an Easter egg for our listeners.
Yeah, exactly. I started a job there and I worked there for maybe 6 or 7 months. So up until last February or March, right before the coronavirus quarantine started happening. And I had finished my degree at community college and I was kind of like petering off in terms of the games journalism stuff and like the YouTube stuff and like focusing on something that was like going to be a career that like kind of edified me more in terms of what I needed both financially and mentally. And then I got really lucky and I was in the right place at the right time and ended up getting a job in like digital marketing for car dealerships in Canada. It's been really fun. But I did my first week and then it was like, okay, we're going to have you work from home. And I'm like, okay, I don't know anything, so we'll see how this goes. So I had imposter syndrome for quite a while, but I mean, like, for example, today it was like just nonstop me doing things. And a lot of it is like social media, except I am only like I have to lock myself into an account. For me, I do this myself for like long periods of time where I'm just like looking at cars, thinking about vehicles. I wasn't super into automobiles before this. I like video games. So it's just been really interesting, just like how much has changed in my life. And like now I'm kind of getting used to like the seismic shift. I broke up with a girl and I got together with a girl too. So that was definitely a thing that you know, affects your mentality and everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, and then I turned 21, so it's like everything bad, everything that could be monumental in like maybe shifting your mindset or like adjusting your mental health happened to me personally, and then to the rest of the world at the same time. So it's been really weird. Like the past 3 months, like have felt like years. Whereas if I looked at the 9 months before then, or like we had done the podcast 3 months ago, I would have been like, hey, I'm like, yeah, you know, like some things change and I'm trying to be better. But like now it's like, hey, I'm like a completely different person than I was last week because every day feels like a month.
Seriously, man.
Yeah.
So you said you're 21 years old right now. You said you're enjoying a beer at this moment.
I am.
What kind of beer are you enjoying?
Oh, goodness. Cheap beer is the way to go.
Yeah, that's the best kind.
Yeah, alcohol is expensive. And also if you buy it cheap, then you can drink more of it too. It's
exactly.
It's a very interesting system with that, and you typically want to drink more of it for your money than less of it for your money. I have also learned.
Yeah, I don't get people that shit on cheap beer. It's like that's it. I don't want to spend fucking $20 a beer and have 20 of them. I want to spend $3 a beer and have 20 of them.
And I guess the thing for us here in Oregon is since it like rains so much and there's so many breweries, since it is the Pacific Northwest, cheap beer isn't actually that bad. Like I'm not drinking Rolling Rock right now, but I'm drinking like a local pub beer that's like a just generic brand, and it's good. It's refreshing. So, and I got water right next to me, you know, making sure I stay hydrated, staying healthy.
We don't want you to be hungover after this episode. That's for sure.
Yeah. I'm just a little boy, and I've taken 3 sips of this beer, and I'm so worried you're going to make me say things that I don't want to say. You know, I'm just so anxious about it.
Time will tell. We'll see what happens tonight.
I know.
We got a little bit of. Go ahead.
I just wanted to bring up. I know the last time we had you on, you were talking about, I think that's around the time E3 was, right? And you just come back from that.
Oh, dude, why would you say that? E3 would have been happening right now.
That's why I wanted to bring it up. Yeah,
in an alternate universe.
Yeah.
Because I feel so tied to the games industry still that at this point I just unfortunately can't escape it as much as I sometimes want to. I would probably today, because what is today? Thursday?
18th. Yeah.
We would be maybe 3 days into E3, and I would have probably just gotten out of the Cyberpunk appointment, and they would have just given me a Keanu Reeves sex doll, because the previous year they gave us like bomber jackets and figures and like
That's pretty dope.
A bunch of crazy stuff. They always go above and beyond. And so this year they would have definitely just given my own Keanu Reeves. That like when you squeeze it, it says "You're beautiful."
They couldn't mail you a Keanu Reeves sex doll?
Yeah, come on.
Oh yeah, no, I've been removed from that press list. That's for sure.
We got a little bit of show news of our own, as I always say. Re-educationing, we talked about it last week. We got another video on our Thought Cops YouTube channel. Check it out. Give us a subscription if you haven't done so already. I mean, you're listening to this, you might as well go the full mile.
And give it a share. Put it up on your Facebook. Send it to a friend who has a competing ideology. The first two I made on purpose. The first one's about what the fuck's the first one about? I fucking made them. I wrote them. They're my babies. Man. I can't remember the first one. What the fuck was the first one?
I don't remember.
Jesus Christ. Oh, it's the first one's about PragerU, and then the second one's about BreadTube. So you got both. If you have a family member or whatever that's right or left, send them the opposite one and just see how they react. That'll be funny.
Treat them like animals at the testing facilities.
Yeah.
Oh, we got that. I'm not even going to mention it. If you've been listening,
thank you.
If you've heard the last 5 episodes about me complaining about something, you already know what it is. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you're better off for it. Let's move right along. 2 minutes of hate. The very famous, very favorite part of the show. We like to blanket punish all these things on the internet that get under our skin. They bother us, Danny. They're angry. Irritating.
I forgot all about this, and I even said yesterday, I was like, I got 2 minutes of hate for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And again, yesterday might as well be a month before. But anyway, my 2 minutes of hate this week is the response, unironically, yes. People say that. Yeah, you guys ever see this when somebody posts an opinion or they post a joke on Twitter or something? Anything, really. And
I always say it, but I say it ironically.
Okay. I see. You find a loophole there.
Yeah.
Well, for everybody else who didn't find this loophole, which I will from now on be calling the Grant hole, people who respond unironically yes as like a default response. And it's like, I hate that it's the assumption now that we have to assume that everybody is constantly being ironic. And listen, we do a little bit of irony on the show. You know, here and there we do. We've talked about the layers of irony at length.
Like Shrek.
Yeah, exactly. Like that character, the green guy with the big ears, Shrek.
Like an onion.
He's got, yeah, more or less. So this is this thing where I've noticed it even outside of Twitter. I feel like every single commercial or advertisement or whatever has to have these layers of irony on it because advertising executives are like, yeah, sincerity is fucking done.
Yeah.
You want to buy cereal? Yeah, fucking this cereal mascot's like, yeah, our shit sucks. And then we're like, cool, I'm buying Lucky Charms now. And that's sort of the world we live in. And it's like, if everybody's ironic, no one is.
Wow. So
now we have to assume that that's the case. And then the one time someone says they're being unironic, we all have to be like, "Ooh, wow, that's shocking."
Give them a pat on the back.
Yeah. So the dangers of irony. Just look it up. You don't want to get irony poisoned. You spend too much time online. It can happen. As we said before, be responsible. So my punishment for this is quite simple. I want to go for a smoke the whole pack response. We don't even have to spin that wheel. I'm going to say, you know what? You like being ironic so much on the internet, you got to do it nonstop. I'm not even going to say be sincere. I'm going to say irony all the way. You're calling your grandma up, show her some irony. You're at your uncle's funeral. Be ironic to your cousins who are sad about it. All these, just be a horrible person, I guess. Continue being a horrible person. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
On that note, Danny, did you have a 2 minutes of hate?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm just trying to figure out which 2 minutes of hate right now.
Honestly, you can just sort of cycle through a couple if you got some.
Oh no, I've spun the roulette wheel and have bet it all on putrid black. So
All right.
I'm going to so considering like all the recent like political events and everything, a lot of people have like gotten on their soapboxes and like spoke up on like both sides and everything. And one thing that I'm seeing on a particular side, which I'm like not going to show my bias, but it's mostly conservative white people. Well, I just showed my bias. Okay, well, it's fine. But anyway, what happens is like an opinion gets like stated, and in like this environment where like specific brass like evidence is valued more than anything and misinformation runs completely rampant, building a belief structure on like vapid opinion seems to be a little bit more appealing to some people because it is pretty clear and cut and dry in certain aspects, and reducing something to a political affiliation makes it so it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, I have to believe this because this is the team I chose, and I'm going to like double down on it, or else I'll have to like or else like I'll have to re-examine my convictions, and that's a painful thing to do. And I would understand why an individual person would do that, but a lot of times there's this fight for like freedom, and there's this fight for like being able to express your opinion that's predated before people say their own. So it's like incredibly difficult, and something that it is like, I mean, the closest word is kind of hate for me, as much as I don't really like expressing that emotion as much.
Well, it's ironic. 2 minutes of hate. It's ironic.
Yeah, no, of course. But like you claim something and then you don't source it, and then like you attack other people's beliefs basically, and are like, oh, you're wrong, and you don't say why. And then someone is like, okay, well, this is why I believe this thing. And they share maybe articles, maybe they share like a video, or maybe they, just like, provide any sort of evidence in order to back up why exactly they think that way, because that's like what critical thinking is. And then instead of like, there's like reductionist language that's getting thrown around largely by the conservative groups, where it's like, okay, this is against they say this is against the facts, or they say things like, oh, you're incredibly wrong about this again. And then you're like, okay, well, how? Like, just explain the stance then. And they can't even do that.
I think, just to cut in real quick, I think my favorite example of that is when you like post a video or something like that, and people are like, ugh, yeah, of course, the Washington Post. And it's just like, but yes, this is the thing. You're talking about something, and I posted a thing contradicting you, and your response is, oh, this is, of course, BuzzFeed. And it's like, it's a video.
And that's the thing is with that is that it's otherism. It's basically, it's a thing that where you look at everyone who is not on your team, to go back to that clumsy metaphor that I implemented.
Hey, real quick, Danny, I want to say that's our Thought Cops word of the week, otherism.
Oh, okay. I don't even know if that's a
ding,
word.
Ding, ding, ding.
So
it is now.
Okay, cool. I Googled it, and it came up with a Guardian articles, and I don't
the Guardian,
those guys.
Disgusting.
Yeah, those people are garbage. The Hey Google thing, or the Google Home, whatever it's called, thought I said its name, and it was like, hey, I don't understand you. And that's a great example of what I was trying to talk about there too, is just people saying that and then not like explaining why they don't understand you.
Do you ever have political arguments with your Google Home? I do. I specifically incite it from the thing that won't be named, or else it'll start talking again, and I hate it when it talks. It's a good time. You just say like Simon Says, and then you get all of the alt-right like rhetoric that you've been holding within yourself out, and then she says it back to you, and then you argue with logic and reasoning and facts which don't care about feelings, to quote a famous man.
My Alexa calls me a cuck all the time.
Yeah, you oh man, oh goodness, I wish my Google Home called me that. That's so funny. But
So,
yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah. Now here's the quote unquote fun part. Here's where you can punish these folks.
Oh no, I can just drop names and addresses, can't I?
Yeah,
I have that power.
Yeah, this is basically the Keemstar show, so we're allowed to do that.
Yes, I forgot. I was tricked. Oh, dead air.
We'll cut this out. It happens.
I love dead air. That's the first time I think dead air has ever happened on a podcast with me in it, because you guys usually know how this goes, where you just can't get me to shut up.
I mean, we cut the air. We cut air.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You better not cut the air this time, because now we made a bit around it.
I'm fine with fuck ups so long as bits happen as a result of them.
That's why I'm here. Yeah, so if otherism is the word, I think, when you seclude yourself into a specific team, it can look like you villainize everyone who's not on that team. Like, not just a specific group, but I've noticed that it's like anyone who isn't like, it like can be adjacent and even have like the same sort of like rhetoric and thought process, and it's still like, oh yeah, well, like you do that one thing slightly different, so it's like I'm not going to take you as seriously as I would like my microcosm of like maybe a dozen people that I know. And it's just like, that just seems so lonely and nihilistic to have that sort of thought process. But yeah, basically I hate otherism. That's the 2 minutes that I'm sure was a tad longer than 2 minutes.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, we're only concerned about time when it comes to the voicemails.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Okay. I kept plugging the voicemail thing everywhere. I put up signs on my street corner and everything. I was like, call this and just...
Oh, thank you.
Like, I don't know, say whatever you want.
I've tried to do that, and then people respond to me, not your personal army, and I'm like, Jeff, okay, Jesus. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't... You know how I can tell when you lie? Just kidding.
How? What?
I don't know. You just told the truth. You always tell the truth.
That's true, yeah. As an officer of the law, yeah.
Yeah, you have to. It is a part of the oath that you withhold as you get sworn in. They make you put your hand on a book and it's the world's oldest book, and that book will hurt you if you ever lie. I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. It's the Necronomicon, I think, is what it's called.
Yeah, that was what it was.
I thought it was the Epic of Gilgamesh.
I thought it was the Applebee's 2 for $20 menu, because it's been so long since they implemented 2 for $22.
Fair. Did we have a punishment for that, or
Yeah,
they're gonna. I'm going to have otherism for them. That's
Okay.
the punishment.
Fair enough. Just
Stonewall
hold
them.
up a mirror to them.
Oh God! But what if there's nothing in the mirror? What if they're like, that's a nice piece of glass that only shows what's behind me?
well, then we got a bigger problem on our hands, that's for sure. Speaking of problems, Grant, I know you're chomping at the bit here.
Yeah, I got a problem for you.
Okay, sorry.
Oh,
yeah, I got a
wrong
problem.
show. What the hell am I?
Oh,
I got a problem for you. I got a rage for you. I feel like the thing that I brought in this week is almost like an amalgamation of the things that both of you just said, because I'm very smart and have a very good mind.
Of course.
But I guess I'll just title this "The Line" because it's a line, and I don't know where or how to cross it, and I don't even really know what the line is. And the line that I'm trying to that I didn't put too much thought into before I wrote the words "the line" is like, I think it sort of delves into my issue with being a person that's always for a long time wanted to be like an entertainer in some capacity, you know, whether that's been like through music or through comedy or whatever.
Or whatever this is.
And my way of relating to the world has always been like through the lens of humor, because I feel like through sincerity, I never really got anywhere, you know? So you build up these defense mechanisms and you build up these ways of dealing with things. And in a large extent, I mean, it works because it's like, you know, through irony, through satire, through parody, you do knock a couple doors down and get people to understand you a little bit. And if they don't understand you, and if they refuse to understand you, you can basically, it just turns into ridicule. Like, okay, you don't understand what I'm saying. Like, you're a fucking idiot. And I don't have to explain like the point of view, because if you're too stupid to understand the point of view, like, people get that, right? I think the thing lately that I've been like sort of frustrated with has been sort of trying to get on the other side of that line where it's like there's been a lot of bad shit happening, and I do have a lot of thoughts and feelings and opinions on all of it, but it's like it's weird to make jokes and humor, and it's weird to make light out of some of the things that have been happening, because it's just like I don't think that it's funny, you know, like all of the Black Lives Matter and matter shit and stuff like that, like there's real bad shit that's happened like for a very long time but has really been brought up now, and it's like my immediate reaction is like, well, I'll make some sort of like joke about it, or I'll do something to poke holes, and it just feels wrong because I don't want to make it sound like I'm laughing at some of this stuff, so I want to be a little bit more sincere in that regard, but at the same time I don't want to turn into like a John Oliver type, because I do feel like having this platform, even if it's in the limited capacity that it's in, is like an important thing, and I think it's a good thing, but I don't want it to turn into like a fucking soapbox, you know?
Yeah.
So it's been like fucking difficult having any sort of sincere beliefs about any of this shit, because it feels like when I delve into the sincere, it gets drowned out by people who just like refuse to engage in what you're talking about at all. And yet when I do stupid, silly shit, you know, say something satirical or something like that, I feel like I'm not doing justice to things that are, you know, in my mind, inherently evil, you know, sort of shit. So it's like, I don't know, you know, maybe that's just what everyone in this sort of field, I guess, struggles with to some extent. And, you know, you sort of get to choose which side of the line you fall under or whatever. But I don't know. It's a weird time for me. You know, I think it's a weird time for everybody, but yeah.
I think everyone is. I think everyone is just confused.
Yeah,
largely. Like everything is just so shell-shockingly weird. And if you're the type of person who is taking a few steps back and maybe before you post something, thinking about it before, and even if it is like, well, I'm going to be like overcritical of myself and I am not going to do this certain thing, it just means that you have empathy. Largely, like, when I think of the people who have been opportunistic with this situation, both regarding the Black Lives Matter movement, both regarding the coronavirus and everything, those that have been opportunistic, both violently, physically, and also verbally, are showing true colors of who they were underneath before all of this. If you're the type of person who's taking steps back, you should definitely not think of that as like a negative thing at all. It means that you have empathy.
Yeah, I'm not conceptualizing it as negative. I think it's frustrating.
Of course.
I know. Yeah, we took a week off. Actually, we only took a week off just because you were going on vacation and we both needed a breather. But then
just
all that
happened to be like a very weird time to take off, you know?
Yeah, and I know we talked a lot off mic about how we would handle a lot of this stuff.
Yeah,
because, you know, we don't like to get into the heavy political stuff on here. There's a million things you can listen to for that.
Yeah.
Speaking for me, at least, smarter people who could explain it to.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I've got plenty to say on the current events, but there's also, you know, plenty I can learn too.
Yeah, and I think that's also like a thing with this show that's, I don't want to say frustrating, because I don't want it to sound negative, because obviously I love doing this show. But there is like times where it's like, man, all this shit that's happening in the world, and I'm talking about fucking Officer Karen and SpongeBob being gay, and like,
hey, spoilers.
And like there's so much shit that like I feel like an obligation to talk about stuff, but I also don't think that I'm like the right mouthpiece to fucking, you know, like you said, yeah, there's smarter people out there. I don't think that me fucking going off on things is the right way to do things, but it's I think a hard time for everyone, and I do think that there's something to be said about trying to be like an ally, you know, not in a SJWE whatever the fuck sort of however people want to take that to be, but like literally an ally for people who are like disenfranchised by whatever system is like, you do want to show your support for all this stuff. And it's like, well, there, like I said, there is a sort of line where it's like, yeah, I do support, a lot of the shit that's happening right now. I support a lot of the protests. I support a lot of the ideologies. But it's like, yeah, I don't want to like necessarily bring it up on this show because it's supposed to be funny and lighthearted. But at the same time, it's like you feel like some string of obligation to do or say something because, if you had complacency and, silence is blah, 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 all that type of stuff,
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel with the whole silence thing, I know that rhetoric gets passed around a lot where it's like, oh, if you've been silent on this, then you're complicit. And I wouldn't necessarily agree with that at all. That is like, to go back to the word of the day, that is otherism to guilt people for not speaking up. Like it is, sure. That's harsh. That's wrong. If it is the thing where like maybe someone is speaking about certain issues and then actively choosing to ignore certain factors of it and are very strong about their stance, then maybe like they should, maybe that point holds credence where it's like, okay, well, it's obvious that you're not going to look at the whole picture judging from your behavior before. But if you decide to not take a stance on something, or if you decide to stay silent about your own true feelings because you're worried that like it may ruin relationships, then that's nothing that's negative either. I understand why people feel guilt about it, but you shouldn't let other people make you feel bad for doing that at all.
Yeah, that's true. I think that there is like that level of having some sort of platform, even if it's like somewhat meager, too, though, that it's sort of like, I don't think that we have any obligation to like speak truth to power, even though I do feel like that is sort of what this show is fighting back against a lot of the sort of systemic bullshit that's sort of thrust upon us by, systems at large, whether that be, the large conglomerations that we fucking bitch about all the time or whatever. But, I don't know. It was all sort of vague in a sort of weird way, but
yeah, I mean, like we talked off mic too, like, oh, how do we talk about this? Should we talk about this? I guess we have to. How do we kind of get into that? And I feel like it kind of ended up working out. I don't know. It's kind of a weird way to put it, but we were able to kind of come at it from a very thought copsy way where we weren't. I don't know, like somebody sent us an article about the guy who was meditating the whole time that this was all happening, coronavirus and everything, and we're like, that's perfect for us. And then everything kind of fell into place from there.
Fun story. I didn't bring it up on the episode, but I had a relative that like that exact thing happened to. Just like came out of a retreat and was like, "What the fuck?
Wow,
they're burning police stations down and stuff."
That Canadian version of Big Brother. I felt like I was reading stuff where that's like a reality show where they were like, they don't know what's happening, so they didn't know about coronavirus. And
I don't
like
think
the
we talked about
lockdown. That. I'm gonna look it up real quick. So if you hear my mechanical blue switches off of my HP Omen keyboard, I'm sorry in advance, but I'm going to search it up real quick just to see, because like it would be insane if they also had no clue about the like civil rights movement that's currently happening. They finished the show early, like in April. It looks like that particular season. Oh, that's no fun then.
Yeah, I wanted to be like, come on.
What the heck? Yeah, I was about to say, if I was those producers, I would be like, we're running with it. We're running with it. Keep the cameras on. Don't let any of them outside.
Canceling the Truman Show because of COVID-19.
Oh my God.
Grant, what's your punishment for the line?
I guess since I'm the one that's riding the line, I guess what I have to do is I have to recreate that movie Walk the Line. And
is that the one where he walks across the World Trade Center and then the after credits is the plane? Never mind.
No, it's the one with who's the guy that does Dr. Steve Brule?
I can't think of his name. John C. Reilly.
John C. Reilly. It's me being John C. Reilly being Johnny Cash, essentially.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Yeah, no, Walk the Line. Walk the Line was the movie with it was the Johnny Cash movie. It had and
then it's
Joaquin Phoenix.
Well, Oh, Walk Hard
Walk
was
Hard was the parody.
Okay, yeah.
Walk
okay.
Hard, the Dewey Cox story.
Well, so I got to recreate one of them. I don't know. I got to replace myself with Johnny Cash.
There you go.
Yeah. 1 second here. Okay. Moving right along to the old meat and potatoes of the show. If you haven't listened to Thought Cops before, every week we investigate the internet's outrage-inducing news stories, and then we sentence each perpetrator to a cruel and unusual punishment. So you set it up at the top of the show there, Grant. Officer Karen. Oh, is that the third mic?
Yeah.
Been waiting 37 minutes to make that joke.
Wow. Are you guys going to make a podcast called Thought Cops, and it's going to be THOT Cops, and she's going to be the only host?
Yeah.
Now there is a novel idea.
The female Ghostbusters spinoff of your podcast.
Exactly.
Directed by Kevin Feige. Paul Feige. Who is the guy who made that movie?
Paul Feige.
Slimer.
Slimer. Whoever he was, he looked exactly like Slimer. I haven't seen this video.
Yeah, let's.
We'll watch this on air.
Are we watching it together, or like are you gonna play the audio?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm gonna.
Because I watched the first 20 seconds and I was like, this is giving me anxiety that people like this
that's
exist.
all I could bear.
I haven't seen it because I figured it was going to be something we'd have to watch for the podcast. I couldn't just ignore it. Gotta do this. Just kidding. All right, let's watch.
I decided to come to the McDonald's at Love's on the 4th Avenue exit, and I waited in line to get my food. I'd already done my mobile order so that, people don't pay for my stuff, because I just always like to pay for it myself.
Okay.
But I'm on my way home from work. When I pull up to the window, they hand me my receipt, so I go to the second window to get my food. And I'm waiting. And I'm waiting. And I'm waiting. And so the girl comes to the window and asks me what my order was. I repeat my order and my coffee order. And they ask me to pull up because my food's not ready. It's an English muffin meal with a hash brown and coffee. And I hadn't eaten.
Classic.
Probably about. I've been up for a very long time.
They call it number one for a reason.
In a while, so I was kind of hungry. And I'm still waiting. And
it's like she apologized for ordering that.
So I pull up forward, and a girl comes out with my coffee and just a coffee.
Oh my God. I'm on the edge of my seat.
And I have my window down.
It's really stringing this out.
And that's all she hands me is a coffee.
Oh my God.
So I told her, I said, don't bother with the food, because right now I'm too nervous to take it. It doesn't matter how many hours I've been up. It doesn't matter what I've done for anyone. Oh. Right now I'm too nervous to take a meal from McDonald's. God. Because I can't see it being made.
You can never see it being made.
I don't know what's going on with people nowadays. But please, just give us a break. Please just give us a break.
Oh my God.
Did you give George Floyd a fucking break? Sorry.
I've been in this for 15 years, and I've never, ever had such anxiety about waiting for McDonald's drive-thru food.
What?
So just have a heart, and if you see an officer, just tell them thank you. Because I don't hear thank you enough anymore.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do that ever again after watching
Here's
that.
a sausage biscuit, sir. Thank you for your service.
Wow. That was so worth the wait. I'm so happy I watched that collectively with you boys.
God.
So the original tweet said, Stacy, who has been a cop for 15 years, went to McDonald's. She paid for it in advance, and this is how she gets treated for being a cop. Come on, America. We are better than this.
Have these people not been to a fucking McDonald's before? It's always like this.
Yeah,
not
I was
to
about
mention
to
there's
say.
a global pandemic. Like this shit happens. What the fuck?
This is like, so the thing. So in communications class, which is like the very first communications class you have, they tell you that Aristotle came up with 3 types of appeal that you need to introduce, sprinkle about while you're making your or telling a story or like going on a speech or something like that. And one of them is logos, which is like logic, pathos, which is appealing to emotion, and ethos, which is like establishing your moral credibility. And that woman managed to do all three of those things and nothing else. She managed to not do any of those things. She did the exact opposite. Like oh my gosh, this is ludicrous to me. I wish I could frame a Twitter video so I could look at this, because there's so much depth to it.
I didn't see it on the doc, but I'm pretty sure that they found out she wasn't really a cop.
They did.
Oh.
I don't know where that was. Either she was a police officer.
She worked with an agency, is what I was reading. Is that she worked with an agency, and the police station has come out being like, "Hey, that woman does not work for us anymore." Is kind of like it was very like they were representing the police station and like trying to divorce themselves from the situation so much that they were like, this person does not work here. Whereas it probably, like in my head, unless I have the facts wrong, it's like she worked for an agency adjacent to the police force, or like did police work, I guess, through an agency, which is really weird because usually they don't contract out like anything that's like police officer duty to temp agencies.
I feel like they've been doing that more and more, because I know like the meter maids and shit like that used to be a police officer that would have to write a ticket, and they privatized
no, that's true.
That.
You're right. You're right.
Maybe that's happening in other regards. I don't really know.
So the kind of thing that I have seen with things like that, though, is that it is because I used to work for a police station and I was IT and I was a temp agent. And the whole thing was that it was like, yeah, I was IT, but I had the same, like, even though I had just been starting out, I had the same access to basically everything, like down to like the cameras in the city, down to like the website admin privileges for the library, like, yeah, it's their access to the fire department. Like basically the keys of the city are held in your hand, even, or put police in your hand with that system, even if you are only like an agency employee. Yeah. So it could be that thing too, where like she might have basically just been a cop that was only hired like every 2 weeks for stuff, but still had, because she has like a dispatch radio and you hear the police chatter, but I don't know.
She's a cop mercenary.
She's as much as a police officer as you guys are.
You mean not at all?
Which is why she's perfect for thought cops, THOT cops.
Well, the thing with this, the reason why she was so, I guess, shaken, you might say, is because of this Shake Shack incident that happened a couple days ago. Where,
wait, what?
Did you didn't know about the Shake Shack incident?
I mean, I was told to read it, but I didn't.
All right, so what happened is, I guess 4 police officers went to a Shake Shack, got very violently ill, and said, "Oh, we were poisoned."
With what? And concrete? Like, who are they?
I guess bleach. They were saying like bleach, or I read bleach. They said that Shake Shack poisoned them. That
I mean, you're not supposed to use bleach in blacks, and you're supposed to use them on whites. So
fair.
I don't. I mean, it sounds like someone was doing their job. I'm not assuming that all of the cops were white or not. But
so
it's a good guess.
These cops all get sick, and they're like, "Oh, Shake Shack obviously poisoned us." And then I guess they did like a toxicology report or whatever the fuck, and they're like, "Oh yeah, no, they totally didn't. Like, it didn't happen."
That's wild that you can just slander people like that.
Yeah. That Shake Shack should sue the police that said that, but I think it's funny that people made such a big fucking stink about the Shake Shack shit. When 4 officers allegedly got poisoned and were perfectly fine. They probably just had fucking diarrhea or some shit. Meanwhile, like,
they ate at Shake Shacks. So.
Yeah. So I don't know what you expected. But meanwhile, yeah, like the past week or two, I think that there's been like 6 black teenagers that have been lynched, and the news isn't even fucking talking about it.
Oh yeah.
This is the fucking state of things. This is why I'm so frustrated all the fucking time. It's just like, you look at this shit and such a big deal was made out of Shake Shack. over some diarrhea and some vomiting, and they're not even covering the shit that's like, the shit keeps fucking happening. It keeps fucking happening.
Yeah, what am I supposed to call the morning news when I get my diarrhea? Jesus.
Yeah, I think one thing that's been incredibly... So I made the choice to read V for Vendetta like a few days after the riots started happening. Mm-hmm. And one of the factors of like the fascist dystopia that's in V for Vendetta is that the government owns a machine, like a computer called Fate, and Fate is basically this thing that they use to do surveillance on people and everything like that, and they personify the different parts of the totalitarian like government as body parts, and you have everything from like the nose, which is their like CIS or crime scene investigation people. You have the police officers are called the fingers. The people who are in charge of making sure all the cameras are up and running are called the eyes. And there's the voice is basically all news based at the end of the day. It is all like basically like propaganda straight up from like the government. But the interesting thing about the propaganda from what I was noticing is that it seemed just incredibly centrist. Like it wasn't like Fox News, if I was paying attention correctly or not, which like a dense book, so I might not have been. But from how I was seeing it and like reading the subtext in between it, it was that the lack of reporting on certain things and like the way that you can like make people not go out in the streets and revolt is to make things seem like they're over or like not that big of a deal. Like the 24 hours news cycle is a thing which has largely been almost poisonous to the Black Lives Matter movement, where the news stations were ready to move on after a day, even though some of their own reporters were getting attacked by the police. It's just incredibly weird. I'm not trying to be like, oh, like all the media that you consume that's like mainstream news media on cable is like being controlled by the government. But,
well,
I mean, maybe not necessarily the government, but large corporations with a vested interest for certain things to continue happening. Everybody read the book, not Understanding Power, Manufacturing Consent by Noam Chomsky. It's a vital read, but that's the problem I have with a lot of the CNN shit, and why I think that it's so fucking malevolent is that like you can look at Fox News and be like, yeah, they're really pulling the strings on this one and whatnot, but there's this weird like respect that people have for like certain journalists to be like, this is the news. We report the news. We do. And it's just like, nah, you're reporting like what you have a vested interest in, what needs to be reported. Like to pretend that it's just like, oh, we're giving the truth to it. Nobody like you shouldn't buy that shit, you know, from anybody, from any of them.
Yeah, I agree.
You get all your news from Keemstar.
Yep, I agree.
Hey,
I agree.
I got a punishment. Buy your favorite podcasters a shot of Malort.
I don't even know what that is because I've only been allowed to drink alcohol for a few days.
You got to try it, man. I don't know if they have it where you are. Malort.
They don't have it where you are.
How
you might
do
be
you
able
know?
to order it online.
Okay.
It's a lot. It's mostly here.
Wait, if I can order alcohol online, why did I have to wait until I turned 21?
That's a good question.
That is a
what
good
the
question.
heck? Hey, do everyone do every minor you know a favor and let them know they can buy alcohol on the internet?
Yes, we don't know any minors. So.
Neither do I, so I cannot be complicit in this. But I wish someone had told me. No one did. I kind of feel failed by every adult in my life, and I mean that on so many different levels.
Yeah. Speaking of different levels, did you guys see that SpongeBob is gay?
Different levels?
Oh,
what?
So so interesting thing about my childhood, I was never allowed to watch SpongeBob, and I wasn't. The other big mainstream thing was Pokemon and Harry Potter, and they would always give me the reasons for like Harry Potter. They're like, oh, it's witchcraft, and Pokemon, they're like, oh, evolution doesn't exist. And
we were just talking about this last episode.
I know. I listened to that episode, and I was like, I'm so happy someone else grew up that way because I felt completely robbed by not being able to consume either of those things, because I could have just been only playing Pokemon still as a 21-year-old and being a TERF. If I had consumed those two things. But they would never tell me why I wasn't allowed to watch SpongeBob as a kid. And as soon as I read that news post, it was like, you know, that scene in Fast and the Furious, a movie I haven't seen, where they hit the button on the car or like put a pill in the gas tank and it like goes through the NOS button. Yeah, it like does the cool CGI Spy Kids 2 thing. And it's like, oh, we're going to go real fast now. I'm Dominic Toretto. And it was like that, except it was like clarity in my head, and I was like, oh, they didn't let me watch SpongeBob because they thought he was gay, and then they were right.
Right. It was up until this point speculation, and it's still not clear. They said Happy Pride Month, which means he's LGB or T. Yeah. Or you know.
He's probably asexual, right? Because he's a kid show character.
Back in 2004, Steve Hillenburg, the creator of SpongeBob, did say that SpongeBob was asexual. So I'm assuming when they made this post, which you can look up the tweet, it's the tweets from Nickelodeon, and it says, let me pull it up so I can actually read it. But the tweet says, celebrating Pride Month with LGBTQ plus community and their allies this month and every month. And then the first picture is SpongeBob. And I'm assuming they meant, because he's asexual. And that's part of LGBTQA, plus, et cetera, But everyone was like, is SpongeBob gay? ?
He's something, all right.
Oh, boy.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he's a sponge, and historically those creatures have been, they reproduce asexually, right?
They reproduce
like you cut one
by
in half
budding.
And another one grows? By budding? Like
by
gremlins?
budding.
That's how gremlins reproduce.
I can't imagine that's what they had in mind for Pride Month, but, I could be wrong.
Because you remember, in SpongeBob, there's the part where he goes, can you reproduce by budding? Can you? You remember that?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Sometimes I hear people quote that show, and I'm kind of happy that my grandparents were homophobic.
Hey, at least you got the memes now,
I mean, that's the issue. I don't know if I'm a fan of them. I just feel lost and surrounded by people who have ADHD.
Yeah, that show, more than anything else, that was what it would do to kids.
I mean, the first, 4 seasons, I think, before the movie, I do think were, top tier fucking cartoonage. I quote that show all the fucking time. I think just watching, those episodes is worth it.
Really?
Yeah, I remember even, I think I've mentioned before, I used to watch it with my dad even. It was something I feel like a lot of people of all different ages enjoyed it.
Yeah.
For me, the one anchor of appreciation that I feel like I can have for SpongeBob, apart from osmosis, because my generation too grew up with it heavily and it is a very dedicated part of their childhood, is the Jackie Chan remake of Karate Kid with Will Smith's kid. And there's a part of the only thing he watches is SpongeBob in Chinese, and he just watches it. And he's really sad every time he's watching it. He doesn't laugh at the jokes. And for some reason, I was like, this is so incredibly somber, but I can understand how Will Smith's child right now is yearning for home in any fashion. And SpongeBob is so important to him that even though most of it is auditory humor, he is still consuming it, despite how painful it is to know that he'll never be able to consume it like he usually was able to.
Fuck,
and I felt that. I felt that enthusiasm for SpongeBob.
Yeah, I don't think that scene was in the original Karate Kid.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I've seen the original Karate Kid and that Jackie Chan remake, and none of the other ones. And I think those movies were all right. I watched the first few episodes of Cobra Kai, and that was surprisingly decent.
Huh.
That's what I heard.
It's pretty good.
So I guess, I don't know, the punishment here, I guess that's what we have to do.
We punish Nickelodeon for just throwing him out of the closet like that, I guess. That's pretty.
He wasn't ready. Whatever.
Yeah, it's not right.
Maybe, I don't know. We don't know for sure. I think that I don't even know how I want to say. I want to say like producing by budding. I guess that's Happy Pride. I don't know. That's what I got out of this conversation. I'm ready to move on from it now.
Fair enough.
Speaking of other topics, Aunt Jemima got canceled.
Yeah, get her.
Syrup heads all across the world were shocked.
Christ, dude.
Dude,
Did you think of that up on the? Did you think up the word syrup heads on the fly, or
people who are into syrup
before? Okay, all
Kevin's a big proponent of adding the word head to the ending of literally any word.
Syrup heads is the worst word.
Is it? Wait, does that mean something else? And I don't know.
No, I just don't like the sound of it. I don't like how much effort it takes to say. I don't like how it sounds, and I don't like what it can possibly implicate.
I thought I said something awful for a second based on your reaction. I was like, oh god.
It's not as offensive as Aunt Jemima. If it's a slur, it's not.
I feel like it's a slur for it's a slur for people who live in Vermont. Syrup heads.
Well, I want to come clear and say that's not what I meant. Moving on to the news here. Aunt Jemima, Quaker Oats is retiring the more than 130-year-old Aunt Jemima brand and logo, acknowledging that its origins are based on a racial stereotype. This is big news for people who are really concerned with the shape of their syrup bottles. It says here, as we work to make progress towards racial equality through several initiatives, we must also take a hard look at our portfolio of brands and ensure they reflect our values and meet our consumers' expectations, says the Pepsi-owned company. Record scratch. Zwick. Pepsi-owned company? I didn't know Quaker Oats was owned by Pepsi.
Everything's owned by, whatever. Everybody.
There's
Pepsi? One company. It's all owned by Disney.
Yeah.
Thought Cops brought to you by Disney Pepsi. Chase what matters.
Disney Pepsi. Ugh.
Delicious.
Chase what matters.
So, I mean, I'm seeing this and I'm thinking, what's next? They're going to get rid of the jars of honey that are shaped like a bear?
Oh, that landed really hard for me.
Yeah, I know, man. That felt good to get that out of you.
I haven't laughed that hard since quarantine happened.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for sometimes. So, yeah, they said while work has been done over the years to update the brand in a manner that is intended to be appropriate and respectful, we realize that those changes were not enough. So, yeah, I guess it says here they're also donating $5 million over the next 5 years to different charities. Pepsi announced a $400 million set of initiatives to help support the Black community.
That's really cool, actually. Like, yeah, because I don't know. I if anything, I feel like this is like I don't know. I didn't hear anybody being like, oh, Aunt Jemima was like originally like inspired by like minstrel shows or stuff. Like, I didn't hear anything of the stuff that like I saw in the Wikipedia thing that you sent over. I didn't hear that at all. So I think it was largely a very good move of them to just like do that and also donate to like adjacent like charities and everything, instead of waiting for a controversy or like getting canceled on Twitter to happen first and then do that. So I don't know, because it's number one is shooting themselves in the foot, kind of, because like that's the most popular syrup, and well, I don't know if they're just like gonna pull bottles off the shelves or like what's gonna happen with that. I guess they'll just like, but you look at the end of that article and they're like they don't know what the plans are in terms of like how they're gonna move forward with this.
Just call it Pepsi syrup.
Oh my god. It has Pepsi Man. It's the shape of the Pepsi Man.
Yes. That's honestly, I think that's a great punishment. Just change Aunt Jemima to Pepsi Man.
God. But then when the robots take over and they all look like Pepsi Man, they're like, I can't believe you would appropriate us like this.
That's a very good point.
We're going to cancel you. And it's like the whole Iron Man thing where he raises his hand, except like instead of it being a PG-13 Disney movie, it's real life. So like it kills you, and it's awful. I
mean, if I got to get killed one way, I would rather it be by the hands of Pepsi Man.
Yeah, no, actually, I think so. Have you ever seen that film RoboCop?
Yes.
It's very niche, I've heard. Not a lot of people have seen it.
Right, yeah.
But there's that scene in it where that dude gets killed by the tank or whatever, and he gets shot like 50 times on the table. And all I could think of was, it was like, man, that is how I would want to go. Is like someone displaying new technology and having it just brutally murder me.
It's like you're not going to feel the last like 42 shots.
Yeah,
know?
but everyone around you feels it. There's like, that's the thing, is like you die in such an awful way that like everyone's like, oh man, I can't believe that happened. What a freak accident. And then it's like they don't put that like wartime, because they were going to use it for war and stuff. Then they can't put it out there on the streets because there's a controversy. You know, that's being a martyr, I'm pretty sure.
And in the same vein of the controversy here, you know, there's other brands like Uncle Ben's, Cream of Wheat, Mrs. Buttersworth, the Land O'Lakes mascot, all relatively controversial mascots. I say we just replace them all with Pepsi Man. Land O'Lakes, Pepsi Man. Uncle Pepsi.
Uncle Pepsi.
Uncle Pepsi. Classic Uncle Pepsi. I think, I don't know if we ever did we ever talk about the Land O'Lakes thing on the show? Because I
think we did.
I can't remember.
I remember seeing it on the dock, and I don't remember if we talked about it.
Maybe we didn't talk about it, but
to be fair, we didn't even remember what the last video we did was, so.
True. But yeah, like, so they replaced the Land O'Lakes, the Native American on the box of Land O'Lakes. All I can think with all of this stuff is that it's so fucking inconsequential. Like they took the woman off the front of the box, and it's just like, yeah, I don't care. I don't even fucking buy that butter. Like none of this shit means anything to me. It's just fucking consumption of goods. I can't find it in me, but there's, you know, because I fucking frequent the dark corners of the internet where people bitch about this type of stuff. It's just like, who the fuck were you really that attached to the fucking branding of Aunt Jemima? Like, I don't think anyone's like, oh, well, you know, because I'm a racist, I love the mammy stereotype from minstrel era. Like, nobody's saying that, but there's a lot of people that are calling this like virtue signaling, and it's like, at the end of the day, who the fuck cares?
As long as money is going to those places, despite there not being a huge controversy, there really shouldn't be any reason to care. You think? Like, I don't know.
Oh boy, they changed the fucking frog on the front of the Smack cereal box to a lizard. I'm pissed off. Who the fuck cares? It's a cartoon. Shut up! Is what I would say to that person.
I largely agree, but the interesting thing is that, like, the first thing I heard about with the Aunt Jemima thing was, like, someone sharing something on their Facebook, basically being like, here is a photo of the person that was Aunt Jemima. She loved cooking, and she was a happy, God-fearing woman, and they're erasing her legacy now. And it was like, oh, this is like, they're like baiting you. The corporations are baiting you to be mad about this. Whereas, like, I had to watch an 8-minute and 46-second video of a dude crying for his mother as he like had all the air go away from his lungs, and you just didn't care. But this person, like, you had to lie, number one, because that's not like, it's not like what that Aunt Jemima character really is that, like, there's a lot more to it. But you also decided to be silent about that one thing and decide to, like, get angry about maple syrup. And it's like the corporations made these people own themselves. And the same thing happened with the Land O'Lakes thing. But I don't know. It's really weird. Like, I don't think it's virtue signaling either. I just think that people shouldn't really care that much. And I think they should care, but both sides.
I think that they shouldn't care, but in the good way of not caring, you know? Like,
oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
But
so go ahead.
I did see, there was one take that I saw, and I can't even remember because I just like scroll through Twitter and read things that piss me off, and I get some sort of rise out of it, so that's fun. But I saw someone saying something along the lines of like, oh, well, you know, someone who looks at this product and thinks like, oh, black racial stereotype, as opposed to just thinking maple syrup, they've got it wrong. And it's just like, don't you think that like we should be a little bit more aware of the products that we're consuming and like the sort of subtle messaging that is inherent to like what we're consuming? Like if you put a racist stereotype on a box of cereal, we have a weird complacency about like, oh, well, that's just normal. And it's like, maybe it shouldn't be normal. Like maybe just get rid of it because it doesn't need to be there. You know, I don't know.
Hey, you know what's not normal?
What's that?
Pepsi Man. And he's awesome.
right.
Speaking of things that are awesome, let's get to our key to the city. Something nice, something cool, something awesome. Something, hey, when you see this, I go, oh, awesome sauce. Anyway, my key to the city this week goes to the snack combos. We're eating a lot of them in quarantine.
Jesus
They're great.
Christ.
They're these little like pretzel rolls. They got
we all know what combos are.
Not everybody does. Not everybody does. You got cheese filling in them, pizza flavored cheese filling, all different kinds of flavors. Check it out at your local grocer.
All right.
Danny, did you have a key to the city?
Oh, do I have a key to the city? See, I despite everything, despite
all your rage,
I still am someone who's just overwhelmingly positive about certain things. And,
how's it feel?
It feels like a lie now that I'm saying it out loud. But a few days ago, I'm not sure because sleep has been not a thing. 2 nights ago, at about 8:20, I played the entirety of Tetris Effect, which is a VR game that's a version of Tetris with a lot of like
that
cool
looks fucking
lights and
sick.
sounds. Yeah, that is the closest I have ever had to a religious experience in my life. That was so incredible that as soon as I finished it plays like these like really high energy, like kind of electronic pop songs occasionally. It's a wide variety of like electronic music. And the cool thing is, so one of the quick aside, one of the first people I ever interviewed as a games journalist was a man named Tetsuya Mitsuguchi, and Tetsuya Mitsuguchi went to school for synesthesia, I think, or like he went to school for audio engineering, and he specified on synesthesia, which is this concept that like music and colors can make you feel incredibly strong emotions, like a wide range of them. And so he made a video game called Rez, which came out on the Sega Dreamcast, which was an on-rails shooter that implemented it. And I interviewed him, and it was before the PlayStation VR came out, and he was talking about Rez Infinite. And it was one of the best interviews I ever had, because he talked about how he wanted to change the world, not through like storytelling or anything, but through the simple aspects of like colors and like music and things like that, just to like let them know how easy it is to just like fall into positivity. And it was an incredible interview. And he was like, VR is like the thing I've been waiting for my entire career. Like this man who's been in the industry for like 20 years said that. And it's like, okay, all right, let's see what you got. And I played Rez Infinite and I cried like that. I cried during that because it was just like,
was that with the headset on?
Yeah, I was with the headset on. Like you just flying through those particles, and you hear those songs with like simple lyrics that are about like peace and unity, and it's the closest thing like I've ever had to like a religious experience. And that game is only like 15 minutes long, and Tetris Effect is like 2 hours long. And so I was like playing that game, and I would be playing Tetris, and I would be on autopilot. And I would think about all of these difficult things in my life. I would think about all these difficult things that are happening around the world. And it just like became so profoundly easy when I finished that game, and just how overwhelming it made me with emotions. I mean, it made me cry again. Like it was like he made me do it twice. No person has made me cry twice before in like that sort of way, like as a creator. And
shame on you, make me cry twice.
Yeah,
shame on me.
Yeah, shame on me, Tetsuya Mitsuguchi. You get my key to the city. You get my key to the city.
I wish
everyone
I could
play
cry.
Tetris Effect.
I want to, man.
You should play Tetris Effect. Like that, it's so like that is such a debilitatingly transformative game if you like are just in a difficult headspace and you play all that in one sitting in VR, and it's just you and some whales in space and some beautiful music, and you're playing a puzzle game made by Russians in the 1980s. Like, nothing has been more perfect than that for me this quarantine. Like, it was beautiful. Highly
That's
recommend
awesome.
it.
Brent, your turn to top that.
Okay, well, it's not going to happen. My key to the city this week goes to Governor Pritzker of the state of Illinois for some reason.
Yeah, I think I was hearing Illinois has, I believe it's in the upper percentile of most decreased cases of COVID.
Yeah.
And we also have, I think, some of the highest testing, too.
We were like the only state, like one or two states met all of the federal guidelines for reopening, and Illinois was one of them. And like it's hilarious to me because I'm a big fan of like Chicago and Illinois history, you know, like I love reading about like the dailies and the fucking World's Fair and just all of the shit having to do with Chicago and Illinois. And we've had some like 9 out of 10 of the past governors have all been in the fucking federal penitentiary for being corrupt as shit. And Chicago has some of the worst machine politics of all time. And it's like we picked the billionaire Trump-esque sort of guy who just happened to be on the other side of the political aisle. And he's like actually doing a lot of good, which is hilarious to me. Like he ran on the platform of, I'm going to legalize weed and be a progressive. And everyone was like, we'll vote him in now. And then in 4 years, we'll vote him out. Like, fuck him. He's a fucking piece of shit. And now he's like the best governor we've ever had. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I think things are coming along very smoothly.
It's the weirdest. This is truly the weirdest time to be alive, I gotta say.
Speaking of a weird time to be alive, before we get to our final voicemail segment of the show, Danny, where can we find all your great and wonderful content on the internet?
Oh, yeah. So considering that my day job is basically making content, there's not a lot of content that I'm making so much anymore, and I've been working a lot on myself and everything, but yeah, if I ever do,
where can we see that?
What's up?
Where can we see your like personal? I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah, no, of course.
What's
just
your
come
Tinder
over to my
profile?
House. Follow me on Twitter at Shadowforks, SHADOWFORKS. If I do anything there, it would mean a lot if you checked it out. But more so, just connect with me over there. I usually interact with everyone. I'm not super huge or anything like that, but I am always active, and I'm almost always on that website, just like I said before, just hooking despair into my veins endlessly. So yeah, I'd appreciate it if you came over, and I'd follow you back, and as long as you're a positive voice, I won't unfollow you a few weeks later. So yeah, that's where you can get that.
Keep that positivity up on Twitter, the old hell site, as they say. So let's get to it. If you want to leave us a voicemail, give us a call, 312-788-7361. Or you can always send us a audio file at thoughtcopspodcast@gmail.com. Let's go.
Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? Hope you're all doing well.
Oh, thank you.
So, it has been mandatory to wear a face mask or a mask, whatever you want to call it, in public transportation and stores and whatever, for a while now. But only recently have I figured out this feeling that I've had for pretty much the entire time, and that is that most women
here we go
look better with a mask on. Which is just another way to say most women look better with most of their face covered. Which led me to the realization that maybe I was wrong about Islam. Maybe they're doing it right. They got it figured out. So yeah, that's
Holy
That's it.
shit. Have either of you ever gotten a voicemail better than that in the history of this show?
He leaves these types of voicemails
Holy cow.
every single week.
I was wow. I don't know what to say other than he's right in so many ways, and
Wait, we'll see him off on this spiritual journey. You know, he seems like he's sort of found himself, found religion in these trying times. So yeah, let us know how it goes.
I had to have this auteur video game developer wait patiently for video game technology to evolve to a point that was like exactly where he wanted it to be for like his concepts in order to like have a religious experience. And he just had to like see some like e-girls on Twitter with a mask on, and he was like, oh, but is Islam. Oh,
he's just looking for a good excuse to simp. That's all.
Is he though, or is he right?
You know,
We'll see. Let us know how it goes next time.
Know how it goes.
Yeah.
there is sort of like God, I hate to play into this. There is a sort of like leave it up to your imagination that's sort of like, ooh, you know, like if something's covered up, if there's a celebrity that's like, oh, that's a, you know, the celebrity is real hot, and then you see like a nude of her, you're like, well, I've seen it, you know. But if she's always clothed, you're like, ooh, I wonder what's under there. And there's that element of like, if I never find out, then I can just have it. I can hold the image in my mind for forever.
And then what?
And then what is absolutely nothing. You idolize things that aren't based in reality. Cover up those ankles, Zwick says in the chat.
Omae wa mo shinde yo. Hey, Thought Cops, it's your granddad, Firecloud.
Hi, Granddad.
I just want to say, by the time this episode drops, I'm going to be fully enjoying The Last of Us Part 2.
Oh, there we go.
I'm going to be working my way to finishing that sweet, very good game that I have not been spoiled yet for.
Oh,
and I'm
lucky.
going to be making my way towards Grounded mode, which if you don't know, let's just say, if you know, you know.
It's just the very hard mode.
Officer Grant!
Yes.
Psych!
Oh, man.
Boy, you thought.
That hurts every time.
Officer Kevin, what are your thoughts on Super Mario 64 DS? Do you approve? Does it realistically pale to the original? And also to this week's guest, Danny T. The Star Wars prequels were great, weren't they? Who was your favorite character? I personally think Ewan McGregor's portrayal of Obi-Wan was iconic. What do you think?
Holy cow.
A loaded voicemail
like
as usual
Ewok.
from Granddad.
Jesus, he does not pull a single punch.
Thank you for asking me specifically about Super Mario 64 DS. I do have some opinions on it. I played it on the DS when the DS came out. It was kind of weird to play with the circle pad. Or no, I'm sorry,
Or the D-pad.
The D-pad, yeah. I never
the
used
stylus. Did you use the stylus?
Yeah,
at all?
no. And they had that weird like thumb thing. I didn't fuck with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't. So for me, that was that. I did not know Super Mario 64 DS was a remake. Because,
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Because I was a child.
Yeah.
I was like maybe 6 or 7 years old, and so I didn't know any better. But I had a ton of fun with that game. Growing up, I think, but I had more fun with Super Mario Sunshine. So like I've been poisoned. I've gone back to Super Mario 64, like maybe when I was like 9 through 11 years old, when I was super like into Nintendo and was buying retro game systems, and that game holds up incredibly. Yeah, especially for a 64 game. That game feels amazing.
It's just perfected 3D movement, which I would say the DS one doesn't exactly do.
I don't think so either.
I also think like I prefer the art style from the N64. I got a soft spot for that low polygon aesthetic, and that was just like such a big leap forward. I will say that the DS game has a lot of extra cool content that made it well worth playing. You get to play as Yoshi, Luigi, and Wario, and I think there's 150 stars in that one as opposed to 120 in the original. So for that reason alone, it's worth play. I would say I prefer the original just a smidge, but you know how it goes.
Yeah,
I'm surprised.
Polygons, man.
Yeah, that has actually held up incredibly well, like the character models in those games too. There's a lot of playfulness behind it.
I wish we still had polygons in video games. Like, you know how there's the reinvention of 8-bit and shit like that? When are we going to reinvent fucking 64-bit graphics?
There has been some coming.
Yeah. There's like, if the horror games by Puppet Combo look like Silent Hill, like the original Silent Hill, in like an aesthetically pleasing way. There's a game called Paratopic, which is a first-person game that has like a PS1 style low poly aesthetic, but in like a specifically unsettling way. That is incredibly cool. But I think that with the like I can only think of horror games when it comes to that, because of I think people think that both the animations and the way that our brains had to fill in a lot of the finer details lent itself to horror like really, really well. So I think that's probably why you don't see it as much, because people haven't figured out implementations for other genres.
I mean, even like the Legend of Zelda games, like there were some moments in fucking like Majora's Mask that were, to be honest, genuinely more frightening than a lot of horror movies that I've seen. You know, like just that unsettling atmosphere. Like,
even when you play the 3DS version, it's like a completely different game. It seems, because of the added visual fidelity. Like there was like a bizarre otherworldly aspect to Majora's Mask that made me incredibly unsettled the entire time.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's one of my favorite, I think, video games, but definitely one of my favorite Zelda games.
I really should revisit it.
I remember one of the first conversations you and I ever had was about what the best Zelda game was.
That's true. That is true.
And to address the second half of that voicemail, care to comment on the Star Wars prequels?
Oh, the Star Wars prequels? Oh, shoot. I had his name in my head.
Ewan McGregor.
Not Ewan McGregor, but since I am Gen whatever, not millennial, whatever, millennial, Zoomers, Gen Z, whatever, Zoomer man. I watched the Star Wars movies, episode 1, episode 2, and then not episode 3 because it was rated PG-13 and I wasn't allowed to watch it. Then episode 4, 5, and 6. And I wasn't allowed to watch the third one for quite a while after that. So I don't know if I feel like I might have liked the prequels back then. I liked Phantom Menace a whole lot, especially the last like 20 minutes. Like the Duel of the Fates is so good. Like that Duel of the Fates sequence is one of the greatest action scenes, in my opinion, that I have ever seen in like a sci-fi action film. Like there's so much emotion behind it, where there's the stakes are so well defined if you think about how that movie's a prequel, because it's like, oh my god, we know Obi-Wan's gonna live because he's gonna be in the later films, right, and everything, but this was the butterfly effect that caused Darth Vader to become Darth. Like Obi-Wan wasn't ready to take care of an apprentice. And so you're like on the edge of your seat as someone who knows that one of the characters is for sure going to live and the fate of another one may go to the dark side. And you're like legitimately like just so torn apart by the fact that like, oh, if Qui-Gon Jinn is the thing, like him dying is the thing that just puts the galaxy in this entire civil war and oppression, like, God, it's just, you care so much about the fatherly aspects of Qui-Gon and about how like he was dissenting a little bit towards the Jedi Order and how he could have been the thing that like utilized Anakin in a way that made him not be Darth Vader. And you're like, oh, this might be a good movie. You're tricked. It's not a good movie, but you're tricked for a brief while if you're in that specific headspace. So it's Qui-Gon Jinn. He's the best character of the prequels because his death is basically the reason why the movies 4, 5, and 6 happen the way they do, and the reason why
I could see that.
Yeah, like I don't know. I have a lot of nostalgia for those movies, but I'm also not blind to their flaws like some people are.
It came out when I was like 10, and I loved it as a 10-year-old. And yeah, you go
which
back.
One?
I think Phantom Menace.
Oh, that came out in like 97 or 98.
No, it was like 99. 99
yeah,
or
it was
2000.
99 because it came out, like 2 weeks before I was born.
So I was
basically.
like 8 or 9, I guess. But
yeah,
I mean, I loved it, and then you watch it now, and it's like, it's not a good movie. But yeah, you feel all those things.
Of course not.
I definitely do feel like Qui-Gon Jinn is like the most human of any of the characters. Like,
yes, for sure.
He felt like the only one that was like doing a good job acting, because it's Liam Neeson, and he's a surprisingly good actor. A lot of the other people, like Natalie Portman, felt very stale in the movies. Ewan McGregor felt very stale during the movies. Anakin.
They underutilize their big stars, like Samuel L. Jackson as Mace Windu.
Way.
Like Mace Windu.
I always forget he was in that. Yeah.
Yeah, because, well, I mean, that you wouldn't be blamed for that at all, because of the first film, he's barely in it. He doesn't turn on his lightsaber. Like, if I remember correctly, the action figures for him had a blue lightsaber and stuff, and like you never seen
not what he asked for. Yeah.
And then in the second one, he doesn't show up until the very end to fight Jango Fett in like Geonosis and stuff. And other than that, he's just like talking to Anakin, being like on the council with the other people in brief scenes, being like, "Hey, we're not sure about you. There's like darkness and stuff around you, and we're not sure about that."
One of the
and then
coolest
the third one, he
actors,
shows
and
up
they
to
just
die.
completely under fucking utilized him.
Yeah,
what a shame.
It's a shame for sure. Like it probably is the thing where he just like didn't have a spot in that story for what Lucas was trying to do.
Yeah.
But like I just wish that he was like in more action scenes. I wish that he was in like he's not Lando Calrissian in episode 6. Like he's just there sometimes.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have his like big moments that he could otherwise have. He doesn't have his like character arcs that he should have. Like those movies are really disappointing, and it's cool that the Clone Wars is really good. Like I finally watched that up until like the middle of the last season, and that show's excellent. That's the best Star Wars content, I think, in my opinion, other than the Mandalorian and maybe the
That's great.
The cartoons.
Yeah, the Clone Wars cartoon is excellent. Like that is it is so layered and so deep by the time you get to the third season. And especially for a kid's show, that's like up there with Avatar: The Last Airbender for me, and it's by some of the same people, which makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, when people pitch that show, they're like, "Oh, it's like, you know, it's not that great the first few seasons, and then it gets good, and then they don't say anything else." So I hope that was a better pitch for that.
That's always a rough pitch for something. It's like, yeah, wait around. Speaking of wait around, that we got one last voicemail. Let's get that going.
Hey, bitches. I got a question about
I have no response to that.
social media etiquette that I don't like, or that I don't get. When you post a story on Instagram and you don't have text over it, like it's an image, you don't have text, it's just the image, and then someone messages you, it's like, "Oh, could you send me this?" I'm like, why can't you just screenshot this? Like, I don't have text over it. You can just screenshot it and have that image. I don't get it. I mean, like, there's no punishment. Just fucking screenshot it.
Yeah, I guess it's like shit. I know on Snapchat, if you screenshot something, it shows the person, but I don't think it does that on Instagram. The only thing I could see is like maybe they want like the clean version, or maybe the Instagram story, the image got cut off. But it is kind of like weird to be like, yeah, send me that image, and it's like it's right there. You could just take it.
Sometimes people will like tag you in something and be like, "Hey, repost this as your own." And I'm like, "Well, but you drew all over it. Send me the normal one." But that's a different
she's
thing.
Saying, she's saying when that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I'm so unattached by my own generation's culture that I just feel isolated from everything. I didn't watch
basically
Spongebob.
It's like, yeah.
I didn't like Harry Potter.
So you don't have like a politics as Harry Potter opinion?
I don't know about the hat. So I don't know what's happening in Harry Potter other than like, because I've only seen 4 of those movies and I watched them 10 years ago and I was sleep deprived. Yeah, I only watched the first like 4 or 5 maybe, and it was all in a row, and it was until like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. So I have a very skewed perception. I don't even know what's happening. Is there some boy? He's got like a weird scab, and like a guy comes to his house, and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna turn your parents into pigs, and you're gonna come to my school." And then he like has to run into a wall with a shopping cart, and he does because he believes in magic. And then the chocolate frogs are alive, and then a hat tells him how he's gonna act and tells him how he's gonna believe for the rest of his life. And I was like, that what, huh? What are you trying to say with that?
You know what I just thought of? Like, instead of the sorting hat, it's Twitter, and it like assigns you to one of the quadrants of the political compass.
But that's what she's trying to say, right? Like, that's what, like, does that metaphor get paid off, or is it just this weird racist old hat that's like, and you're going to be an asshole for the rest of your life?
The hat's a cop, you know?
Oh, the hat is a cop.
Throw all the white kids in Hufflepuff.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Dude, I don't fucking know. I don't know.
They were all white kids.
No, there was an Asian one called Cho Chan.
Yeah,
Cho Chang, I meant.
Yeah.
That's
ludicrous.
Right.
Yeah.
That's like 2 letters off
real?
of Ching Chang.
Yes.
What? No, I don't believe
it's
you.
It's real.
Are you kidding me? No. So someone the other day also told me that, like, so spoilers for Harry Potter, but they were like, hey, right. So like, you know that Voldemort's in a Gundam, right? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, Voldemort is a fetus in a stone Gundam, and when they kill Voldemort at the end, they take his fetus and like kill the fetus or something like that. And I was like, that is, if apparently that's like at least partially true. So you could tell me anything about Harry Potter, and at this point I am obligated to believe it.
They did to baby Voldemort what time travelers refused to do to baby Hitler.
So basically Harry Potter lives in a pineapple under the sea.
Oh my God. Anyway, Harry Potter asexual? Let's ask J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, no, I think he buds. Yeah, I'm sure she'll have a very nuanced opinion on that. Danny, thanks so much for coming back on the show.
Thank you. This is always a pleasure.
And anyone listening, hey, thanks. And if you want to support us with a little bit of your own financial gains, we'd appreciate it. Patreon.com/ThoughtCops. We got plenty of bonus content for you right off the bat. So check that out. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Good luck out there.